before and after here.
So in early 2019, I went a 600-mile trip to pick up a w114 1972 Mercedes. There's the pre-E-Class, so it wasn't an E-Class, but it was the model that would become the E-Class. This was a 280E, which was the top of the line model at the time, the petrol engine. And it had, according to the ad, 100,000 miles on the clock. So I looked all over the place for one of these. I live in Northern Ireland, so I was all over, really looking all over Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England. And really they had lots and lots of 200Ds, 220Ds. Those cars, they're great and they last forever, but the engines are too slow to drive. They really are too slow to take on the motorway and be safe, in my opinion. And I was looking for a car that could drive, not just be a toy to wheel out on a Sunday, if possible, you know. And this car wasn't a whole car, it was basically stripped down. The guy I bought it from, he had planned to fix it up, do it and lower it and do all those things with it. I didn't want to go to the far side of the company to buy a project car, but this was the best one available with the high engine and relatively low miles. And when I got chatting to a guy, it was a guy called Rob, I thought he was trustworthy and honest, you know, as much as you can think that about a total stranger. Anyway, I got talking to this guy and I tortured him with questions and he sent me videos, and then I decided to make the 600-mile trip. I pick it up and he actually partially reassembled it for me so that I could drive up the road.
This headlight needs a small patch in there, which I've cut out already, and a small patch on the front of the wing there. Down here it's been patched at some point by somebody, which I was just going to roll with again, to be honest, because I don't see the point of changing the front wings. All round the windscreen is solid, there's no rot whatsoever. On both sides, so as we're coming down this first pillar here, there's a small patch there which needs to be welded. The seals all look pretty good, apart from there's a tiny little patch that needs there, so I'm just going to cut out and just put a piece in. And then moving through, all the door seals and everything is solid. Inside, all the floor's been out, there's no rot in the floors at all. Again, around this windscreen, took this one out a couple of days ago, all looking nice and good around the windscreens. There's no rot at all where the rubbers were. This is the new wing that I've pulled right back to metal, because I was intending to take the whole car back to metal. And then down here I've put in new inner and outer rear wings there. The last panel's available in the country, by the way. And then around the back we've got a small patch put in there, someone's done at some point, which isn't particularly brilliant, but I mean it'll probably be okay to go again. The boot floor is all solid, nothing wrong with that in there. I was just going to pull it back and do it with bed liner, because it's very similar to the original and it's also sound deadened. And then here, this back side here, where I started pulling that back, there's a slight patch it needs on this side there, tiny little one there. No, as I say, it's just all stupid little stuff. Arches are all solid, no rot there whatsoever, nothing at all. Going around this side, again on this side, same again, there's a small patch there, which is easy enough to repair, easy peasy. I think the seals are pretty good on this side. There's a small tiny bit, same as the other side, which strange, mirror's the same size as the other. This side, again, it's not been stripped, but all looks pretty solid. There may be a little bit of filler at the bottom there, but I don't know because I've not pulled it back. Other than that, it's a very good solid car. The boot lid is totally solid, no rot in it whatsoever. All the doors are here and present. There's one there, and they're all as this condition here. No dents, no damage, no rot on the underside of any of them. The interior is all present and correct, apart from the carpets weren't in the car when I got it. The seats are in pretty good condition. One of them I think has got a tear in, I think, on one of the fronts. But I mean, if you were doing the car, probably you'd do the seats again. Other than that, there it is, really. I hope that's given you a better idea of what sort of condition the car is in. As I said to you on the phone, it's in very good condition for the year of it, and very good for restoration. Minimal work for a respray. As I say, good car.
I had the insurance and I had the green flag on my account, and I just thought, if the worst comes to worst, they'll pick me up and bring me home. Well, guess what? The worst came to worst. The car was driving fine for about 20 miles, and then one of the brake calipers had seized, and it just started to smoke. And I thought, right, this car's going to completely catch fire. I thought, my money's down the drain. I was fearing the worst. I pulled over to the side of the motorway, and I'd almost completely resigned myself to just scrapping this car off and making my way home, minus several, well, a lot of money, let's just say. Broke down 5 minutes after buying. Engine smoking, brakes soft and not working at all. So got 5 miles up the road and she broke down. Before she broke down, she was driving really nice. So make of that what you will. Green flag picked me up. They looked at the car first of all. I brought it to a local garage. The local garage were like, don't worry, it's just the brakes, don't panic, we'll order the part for you. But it turned out the part was going to be several days wait, and that's understandable. So what Green Flag did was they put me onto a trailer. They drove me from Exeter in the southwest of England, and they drove me up the motorway overnight to Liverpool, at which point they changed me over to another car loader, brought me to a hotel outside of Liverpool, put me up overnight in the hotel in Liverpool, and in the morning took me to the ferry so that I could get the ferry from Liverpool across to Belfast, which is where the car was going. All of this didn't cost me a penny. I rescheduled my ferry, I got everything taken care of by Green Flag, so unbelievable. Yeah, what do you think? Good? Good job? Hey boy. Eventually, fine, I got the car home. I looked over her, and the more I looked at it, the more I was pleased with what I bought, because there's so many, the car is so old, it's well documented all the issues these cars can have, all their main problem zones and all the stuff that goes wrong with them. And as I checked over my car, I was happy with everything I could see. It had typical rust in the footwell, and behind, particularly bad rust behind the bulkhead and the firewall, which is where it gets rusted. There's really very few cars out there that aren't rusted in the firewall and the bulkhead, which means you've got to take the dashboard out, you have to move the engine and all this. I didn't want to do all that. Initially, I was just going to fiberglass up the holes and drive the thing on a dry day and not worry myself about it. But now that I have it, and it's a 280E, I realise that even if it's not the most high value car on the road, they are rare. And I think they'll appreciate, and I appreciate them because of the style and of the build and everything. And they have a similar build quality to the w114, and everybody knows about the w123. But to me, that car just doesn't have the magic of the 115, 114 with the stacked headlamps, the square, simplistic shape. They're more muscular, they're more of their time, and they're just that bit rarer and nicer to me. Now, I love the 123, and I think that long term that will be the classic car to own, and that will probably gain in value more, possibly. I don't know. That's not my only concern with this car. So, okay, so as soon as I had the car, I started to strip the car down, take all the interior parts out, the seats out, and started to clean them. And as I was cleaning them, they were just coming up beautifully. Up to maybe 5 or 6 years ago, this car was clearly well kept. It had been well looked after. It had been put in a garage, I presume. So it was good. So I started to clean all the parts, put everything away, strip the car down. I ultimately then stripped the paint off the car. And I put it away for the winter. We had lots of storms over the winter and so on. Well, anyway, come January, I get the opportunity to buy a w114 300TE Estate, which is a great car in my opinion, and it's just one of the perfect and I put it into a little carport I have in my backyard. you can see here. And I put it away, and I did some epoxy priming on the doors, and I did some preparation. I stripped it down further. I started to weld up some parts which were particularly bad. But then winter came. It became very cold, very wet, very quickly, because I'm in the north of Ireland, so it is what it is. And I put it away for the winter. We had lots of storms over the winter and so on. Well, anyway, come January, I get the opportunity to buy a w114 300 TE estate. And I just put it in the backyard, and I started working on it to get it on the road to drive, and one thing led to another, and all year long I was doing maintenance and repairs on the car. I did some welding on it, and I did some fixing, and anyway, long story short, that took up all year. And my w114 sat in the carport ever since, waiting for me to come back to it. Well, now here finally I'm getting a chance to come back to it and get started again, and get my head around it again, and start thinking about what I need to do. Now, in the meantime, I've been buying parts, paints, materials, disposables, and gear to paint and sort the car. Now, I'm no expert at painting or anything like that, but I can just about manage it. So I'm going to paint the thing in a single stage paint the way it should be, do all the bodywork. Now, I'm not looking for a perfect factory original car, a concourse car as they call it, because that additional 20% of effort to make it that additional 20% more perfect takes 80% more time and effort and money, and I'm just not a rich person, so I'm not doing that. So, oil cooler needs fixed, it's leaking. Everything on here is steady. That throttle linkage there, that's sticky, but it was working fine the last time we had it going. The whole thing's solid. It's got surface rust on it, but most of the panels have epoxy coating. There's no dents or damage or deep rust all along the surface, just a little bit down over the bottom of the side panels, so totally manageable. And yeah, no dents, stings mainly across the whole car. If you look inside, then you know you can see there's surface rust here. It's quite heavy surface rust, but it's just surface rust. We're going to just brush it all off and treat it. I'm not worried about it at all. Where you see the black here was relatively rusty, but nothing compared to what you can see on a lot of cars. You know, this was just surface again, some pitting, but I've put the port 15 in, and I've got a little bit here under the seat have to be treated. Along the back you have the sound deadening, but I've been a little stingy on it. You don't need to use a lot, but I think I'm going to go back over and add more. Now if you look here, this is the fiberglass. Now when I first got this car, I was going to just slap fiberglass on it, just all that crap, and put it on the road and drive it. So I've seen the error of my ways now, so I'm going to cut that back out. I'm going to weld that up properly with sheet. You know, my skills have come on a long way since I took on this car. It's been sitting now for a couple of years, so you know, we're up to speed more now. I'm going to get more serious with it. There's holes here, a couple of holes I've cut out, ready to be fixed. I could replace the whole sills. I don't want to do that. I don't think it's necessary because the car is solid. So a little bit in the corner, a little bit along the bottom, and it will go for a while. I think it'll be good for a while. And then the sills, we can replace them. The roof is good, solid. All the rust's come off it. This is just mild surface rust, what you're seeing, and dust. I've been using this tint to paint in, so you're seeing a lot of dust here. In the boot, surface rust and a little bit of pitting there. I'm going to blast that with acid tree to get the wire wheel on it, blast it out, and then I'm going to use a heavy epoxy to seal it, as I will with the whole car. And if you look in the boot here, again, we had a lot of rust in this boot panel. It was very, very rusty. I pulled it up, I've cleaned it up, and I've poured 15 most of it, and just around where I'm pointing here and along the left here was particularly heavy. I'm cutting that out. I'm going to replace that corner. I'm going to replace here around the wheel well too, but everything else was okay. So pour 15 all over it. It's much better than it was. In the wheel well, same thing, but there's some very bad rust just at the bottom. I'll cut that out and put a little panel in, no problem. Again, down the side of the sides of the back here in the boot, or trunk if you're American, it's cleaned out, just a little bit of rust paint. Really not bad compared to a lot of cars you see. Get the fuel system cleaned out, brakes rebuilt so I can get the car rolling. I'm going to be able to push it in and out without having to start the engine. The engine does start, it turns, it's okay, but until I get the fuel system and everything sorted, the oil cooler sorted, the cooler sorted, I don't want to start it, stop it. I'm just going to roll it for the time being. There's nothing, no bad leaks, and as far as I know, there's no vacuum problems with this engine. I have driven it. It's been sitting for a year, but before that it drove okay. The only problems I had with the brakes started to smoke because they were seized, but I've rebuilt the brakes and I'll put a video up with that as well. So looking inside, there's a couple of bad rust spots I need to cut out and replace, but it's sheet, it's nothing bad or desperate. So my dash is in great condition. Living in the UK, you know that there's no UV light eating up the dashboard, ruining everything, and it just keeps really solid, so that'll shine up great. There's no cracks, no splits. The speaker was damaged, but that was age, so I've actually repaired the speaker and it's going to go back in. But what I'd probably do is have the original stereo in the car and hide a new stereo under the dash somewhere and have a hidden stereo system and keep the original. Yeah, I've got new carpets for it. I'll put those in. I'm going to put the lining underneath everything. Yeah, terrible early weld job. Should have pulled the whole thing out, but otherwise good. The inside of the headlight, well, there was some rust. I'm going to take the wing off and work from the other side in, weld that up. That's fine. A new wing's 200-300 pounds, so why spend it? Otherwise, this car's great. It looks rough, but it's definitely not rough. So that's what we're going to do.